everybody.
Hey.
How's everybody doing?
Good. How are you?
Running around like crazy today.
I hear that.
Oh, it's been one of those fun days. I can't be on time for anything today.
Those are always the worst, where you think you're good to go and then you're like, crap, I'm 10 minutes. Like 10 to 15 minutes is always the worst because it's not like you can reschedule something. You just have to like try and get those few minutes back as the day goes on. I do that all the time. That's my life. I hear you.
And it's like nonstop. But hey, we're here. We made it. We're at Gamers Den.
What's up?
Hey, nice to see you again, Siren.
I know. I was just thinking the same. Hey, girl, how's it going?
Oh, you know.
I have had you on my mind nonstop. So I know it's been 2 weeks, but I don't know if Chitovi told you, but like right after I was like, oh, what if we talked about this? And what if we talked about this? And like all this crap. I've had you on my mind nonstop.
You're just the greatest human being ever. Thank you. I've been thinking the same way. I'm like, okay, so she is just this awesome lady, just tearing it up in the gaming world.
Terribly, but attempting to.
No, super inspiring.
Yeah, my wigs are smarter than me. It's not like being on camera is my job or anything. That'd be awkward, huh?
It looks nice. It's matching the headphones and everything. It's perfect. Perfect. You guys are having girl talk, and I'm like over here just doing my thing.
Smart man. That's a smart man.
So he's like, I showed up today.
Yes.
To my own show.
What's going on in your world today, Siren? What's new in the world? What's the new in the world of your gaming?
Not much, honestly. Right now, I was gearing up for Overwatch 2, which apparently is not coming out until next year now. So now I'm a little upset. Other than that, let's see. Right now, currently, we are promoting one of our affiliate leagues. Verity Esports is running one of their tournaments. So we are not running tournaments this past week or this weekend. I'm co-hosting their tournament. Which is kind of cool. They just did I think it was like 40 days of recruiting. So they just picked up, I think, 40 new players. They got a new player every day. They have a semi-pro now for Call of Duty too. So it's been pretty cool being able to support them and hang out with them, kind of take a little bit of a break too from Cito Gaming while we do some behind the scenes stuff.
Gotcha.
Honestly, we actually started picking up on a lot of what you'd brought up 2 weeks ago and whatnot. We were working with some schools, and most of the conversation that we had was perfect. And thank you for that. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of half back because I want to pick y'all's brains. You guys are wonderful at this. Because we're talking to oh no.
Uh-oh.
Sorry. Can you take care of that? Paul? Sorry. We just found out we had a reschedule. Oh, oops. But crap on a cracker. What was I talking about? I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh.
See, that is today in a nutshell.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Today.
No, we're talking to the dinosaurs. We're talking about how do we bring gaming into the actual world and make it more inclusive and start bringing the segregated economies, kind of merging them culturally into each other. And as we're getting deeper and deeper into our negotiations with a couple private schools and some nonprofits, a lot of what we're kind of getting into is how do we explain to these people that investing in an esports, tournament league or investing in it for their school, starting a program as an after-school program is actually worth something. And 90% of what I actually ended up kind of translating to them, we got here just talking together and explaining like this is a full ecosystem. This isn't, we're going to bring in the AV club. We want to bring in your future businessmen, FBLA, the Future Business Leaders of America Club. We want them in. They're going to be the ones that are dealing with like, hey, let's talk about different ways to set up these companies. And we came up with, thanks to you guys and thanks to the wonderful questions here, where basically we are going to set up, and maybe this is just us being military. The idea is to set up kind of like a junior ROTC program. So I don't know what you guys know about a junior ROTC in high schools, but a lot of times what it works out where the kids are their own faux unit and they kind of run it themselves. That way they know the structure and stuff, right?
So we used to have, well, down here, I don't know if Kara has a similar thing, but we had I think they call it the junior ROTC program.
Yep, junior ROTC. Yeah, that's what we're trying. So we want to kind of mirror that, not necessarily in the military style, but we want the kids to run their own gaming company. Basically, the kids will coordinate the matches, the kids will do the ads, the kids will do the AV. We can get a lot of those coders involved. I have poor coding skills from 10 years ago, but why not? Let's get them in Discord and start teaching them how to make mods and start teaching them how to build small little codes. And so I think that's going to work well.
So one of the pushes that I'm doing, and before we get to, because this is on the same notion, because I want to make sure that we get Kara in, because I want to know what's going on in that side of the world too. But one of the big pushes that I've been doing, I've been making pushes towards the police departments, because every police department has an outreach program to at-risk youth, every single one. And one of the big pushes that I've been doing, and I've been, hopefully at some point, somebody will jump in and, hey, look, that's a good idea. Let's fund it. Locally, what I've done is created a Discord server for the officers can play games and discuss and have that private time with those individuals, those at-risk youth. Because if you do not talk to the kids in their language, you're not talking to the kids at all. And the kids are playing games.
Yep.
Especially a lot of these at-risk youth, because they need a stress relief as well. And what is a quick, easy stress relief? I'm going to go play Fortnite. I'm going to go play.
It's a great way to get lost.
Yeah. And a lot of these kids do that. And so, even those at-risk youth, they'll play games on the phones. So creating that Discord server so those kids can work with the officers directly. They have a program called the PAL program, and a lot of the kids are a part of that. So it was kind of easy to add them in and say, okay, now kids, you're talking to the officers, you're playing games with the officers. Now, not only am I adding in the coding part that you're talking about, but also teaching them other ways of playing games, because I got to bring in coaches for like League of Legends and coaches for just to teach them the actual proper ways to play the game, but also the coding and advertising and stuff. But one of the pieces that I'm adding in is that the kids are going to teach the officers.
Yes, I love that.
So now the kids are the coaches. The officers have to listen to the kids. It's a whole different dynamic.
Everything about this is beautiful.
It builds a whole different bond. So in a similar fashion, it's what you're doing with the ROTC program.
I took it from you. I'll be honest with you. I'm not even kidding. I went after we got done. I got on the horn with the entire staff and the board. And and I was like, we need to talk. Because this is money. Well, okay. So here, breaking it down psychologically, quite a bit of what you're doing is unbelievably brilliant for its own reasons. So you start breaking down the fact that a lot of the issues that you have between, I'm using this phrase as a joke, but cops and robbers is not that they're not alike, because you find that police officers and criminals tend to have the same sort of psychological profiles and way of thinking and handling external stimuli. The differentiation most of the time is an inability to connect. A lot of times you find, well, I'll be honest, it's not even about cops and robbers at that point. Right now, we're finding in society, one of the biggest issues is there's an inability to connect. You start finding people are using their differences as ways to segregate themselves, as opposed to finding middle ground. That what you're doing, this gaming, not only is bringing together, two types of people that wouldn't necessarily get to know each other, but also two generations. You're talking the children and the adults, and you're using a forum that the children use as an escape, that the adults don't get to enjoy anymore. We played games. We were the original gamers. You know what I mean? We were the kids that were the first generation to get sat in front of an Atari or a Nintendo. Do you know what I mean? And
very true.
To be able to use that as a way for them to communicate and to find some sort of common ground is brilliant. And then the second part is, you always, what do they say? Learn best by teaching.
Yes.
There's something about being forced to break it down and going, okay, wait, they didn't get it the way I explained it, so I need to think of it a different way for them to understand it. It is huge for kids. It's one of the reasons why they do a lot of the SAS, like students assisting students programs and whatnot in high schools, because just the amount of information retained from that is just absolutely beautiful and brilliant. And you've done it in one very elegant, streamlined manner. Kudos to you. Seriously, I'm very, very impressed. I love every bit of it.
And that's it's pretty amazing. Sorry, I want to jump in. It's pretty amazing that you're doing that, because like going on with what you're saying, Siren, is like you're creating this sense of like security versus safety. Like, especially with people and law enforcement, they're in like survival mode and alert all the time. And a lot of kids and communities as well, especially in urban communities. So, it's like this trying to feel safe, which is like protecting yourself from harm. But like security is being free from harm. And that requires looking and observing and understanding and having like a firm root in yourself. And so you're literally providing that bridge to security for the kids and, the police officers. Like, that is amazing. So go you, Jatobi. And you, Siren. It is amazing. And go you, Mark. Thanks for being here.
I'm still trying to be big time like Mark, because I'm glad he joins us here today. Mark, Siren, you didn't get a chance to meet Mark last time. He wasn't here last time. But before we get to Mark, Siren let us know what she has going on in her world. We got to let Kara let us know what's going on in her world, because Kara's big time too.
Yes.
What have I been doing?
Yeah.
I don't know.
How's the nutrition questionnaire going?
Yeah, so I know it's like a whirlwind. It's like, when you're doing so much, you're like, I don't even know what I'm doing. It's you're in the middle of it. And I'm currently in the middle of it. So my head is kind of spinning. I'm wrapping around it. And it's pretty amazing. I still can't really talk about it too much, only because it's like, I don't like to talk about things unless they're like getting close to being finished, but it's still a really good, really great thing. And to be honest, I would like to at some point ask for more, help from you three on this. So, so I am, things are rolling and I'm getting information, but I need it kind of in video form too.
Okay. So what would you like? I'm here for you, girl. You tell me, I'll try and make it happen. Okay. I got your back. But talk to me like I'm a 5-year-old, like real slow and like, with pictures and stuff and crayon.
No, I got the phone. Picture page.
Not the pictures of the crayon.
Fun with picture pages.
No, just if you could just record like a quick, video of this is what nutrition means to me, and then send it to me. That would be amazing. That way we can put it in. Then I can send it off, and then we can put it all together and then call it a day. It doesn't have to be long or elaborate, just a few seconds or whatever.
Okay.
Gotcha.
The key is to, because in my world, nutrition, it's not about, oh, look at me or whatever. It's about, people and helping others. And that is kind of understanding what people think and how they think around health and nutrition, and finding a way to bridge that and provide support and further understanding.
Beautiful. I like it. Yeah. You got to know what they think in order to talk to them. I like it.
Yes, I love that you like typed it out so we all know. Like, yes.
That's for me too, because I always go back to these. So I was like, this is for me. I'll forget like in 2 seconds, like straight up.
First, I was like, okay, great. Just type it out, send it to me. But I guess we're needing video form real quick. So the three of you, Mark Lee, keep it under a few, like, keep it under 10 seconds, Mark Lee.
Not happening. Jacoby's known me long enough. Siren, you don't know me that well, but it's probably going to be like a whole lecture, a whole hour-long thing, things of that nature, just because I like to ramble as I'm doing right now. So it could be a while. So.
2 hours later, the question finally arises.
Yeah, but that's fine because, you know, with Mark Lee, it's like, give me 10 seconds. And then it's like perfect time. So like,
all in his own timing. I like it.
Yes.
Nice.
It's all my own timing. It's my own world.
The friend who's always like 2 hours late. So you're like, yeah, we're meeting at 4:30 when everyone's
That's me.
When everyone's actually meeting at 6:30. Yeah.
This guy.
Oh wait, that guy.
Wait a minute, Siren, you're the one that's always 2 hours late?
I mean, not on purpose, but allegedly it's possible. It could be, maybe.
So if I want to have an event and I want you to be there, I need to schedule it for, say if I schedule it at 4:30.
You tell me at least 4. You're like, we start at 4, you need to be there at 3:30.
Gotcha. I was thinking that like if it was going to be a 6 o'clock event, I need to tell you it was going to be at 4 o'clock.
Maybe, possibly, allegedly, it could happen. Maybe has happened before. There's no proof, or there is. Talk amongst yourselves. It's fine.
On a that's pretty amazing because then when you show up, people are like, "Hey, she's here."
On a nutrition note, Siren, I don't know if you started playing Valheim yet. It's right now one of the top played games on Steam. It's been it shot off like wildfire. People are going crazy over it. It's similar to Ark. I don't know if you played Ark.
I did. Yeah. So way back.
So you know how Ark you have to, basically mine, and it's a crafting game. So you have to really grind and do all the extra things to build up extra experience for jumping or for swimming.
Oh, no.
So Valheim is actually a Viking version of it.
Oh, I think I have heard about this one, or at least watched some screenplay of it.
So it's interesting to bring it all the way back around to nutrition where I was trying to go. So in the game, you have to hunt, you have to eat particular things to stay healthy, and you have to have, different items within the game give you a different amount of health, and you can't really eat raw meat. You have to cook the meat. So Kara, that could be a whole different side of the nutrition question. What items in like different games, like Legend of Zelda is big for it. Any RPG.
Valid.
Yeah.
Oregon Trail.
We're going way back.
Yeah.
I
never completed that game.
An Oregon Trail.
That's what I was gonna say. I always died of dysentery. So.
Yeah, that or I was died hunting.
Fording rivers was rough.
Yeah,
I hated it. Oh my goodness.
I'll be honest. If we're gonna go into if we're going into Valheim, that is somewhat RPG or whatever role playing games. Yep. On that nutrition side, honestly, falls to me more in the realm of the player. You find a lot of that loss of self and a lot of loss of nutrition with the players that play like WoW, Ark, Valheim, Rust, any of these ones that are like real time, or like Sea of Thieves, where it's real time as you're playing, and you kind of like a Tamagotchi. Weirdly enough, this is kind of like a video game version of a Tamagotchi where you're consistently having to care for these characters and you're consistently having to go back in. And a lot of times this is where you find your players are losing themselves or losing their nutrition. And this is where you find a lot of, at least when I was in Japan, a lot of the Japanese kids and the Korean kids are losing themselves because they invest so much time and so much money in these games and in these characters, in these worlds. They lose sight of their social lives. They lose their jobs. They lose their health. I mean, they're intense like that. So for me, maybe not necessarily in game, but I wonder, what are your thoughts on these kids that are vitamin D deficient because they just literally never go outside? These kids that are constantly in adrenal crash because all they're doing is drinking caffeine, chlorine, and all of this crap that is just continually turning their adrenaline system up until like 9. You know what I mean? Yeah. Where their endocrine system is consistently just outputting crap. Yeah. Sorry.
He's got a question.
Yeah. So what I was saying is that, I believe that like we have intervals in the movie, when you go and watch a movie, there's an intermission or an interval or a break. There should be a break while playing a game so that you go out and enjoy the sunlight, have some water, and then again coming back to the game. And that way you don't do binge watching or binge eating or stuff like that, because when people started playing game, maybe Jatobi knows that it starts from 1 hour and it ends up in 5 hours. And you don't get out and you just be with the flow of the game that you don't want to sleep.
Oh yeah.
And then you have a lot of. So maybe an interval in the game, and that could be a talking point as well.
By the way, Siren, this is Ankit. Ankit's in India, as a matter of fact.
Hi, Ankit.
He's already invited us to his mansion that he has there. He's paying for all the plane flights for us to come and visit. So just let him know when we're doing the party.
Party with Ankit.
Yeah. And you know who's a sponsor?
He's got his own company. He's got it that way. He's got it all covered. So we're.
And the sponsor is our own Indian Kamala Harris. She's sponsoring the event.
Oh yeah.
Oh my crap! You got sister to get in. I love it.
Kamala's going to sponsor the whole thing. I got you. I like that.
She will be coming to India. You know that she'll be coming to India. There's some plan going on. So she will be soon in India. And you can go the same flight.
Yeah. Oh, of course I can. I'll just call her up real quick and just be like, hey, cuz, let me in.
Toby, this actually raises an interesting question.
Actually,
it has nothing to do with gaming, but it actually raises an interesting question. And that's that I was watching recently, and I've heard that a couple of our celebrities are actually moving to other countries because they're tired of whatever's going on, so they're ready to go to other places. So I understand that Akon, the rapper, is moving to like Ghana or something like that, and Stevie Wonder apparently is moving as well. So Stevie Wonder is moving to another country. I think Akon is actually trying to buy the country. So I think he's trying to.
So just a couple of things because I got bad jokes already. I am sorry about this, but I got bad jokes. So Akon he's been building and doing some great things. So Akon is, he's handling his business.
Yeah.
I think Stevie Wonder is just being told he's moving.
Oh, no, you didn't. Is that a blind joke? You are the worst. Oh, my God. I love it. 2 more, please. I'll take 2 more. I feel terrible for laughing at that. Oh, my God.
So somebody just told Stevie that he's moving. He's not really moving. He's just been told that.
Yeah.
I think Hankins called him and told him he was moving when he had that conversation with Kamala.
Oh my gosh, I'm sweating. I don't know whether I'm supposed to laugh or not, so I'm trying to hold it in. Oh my God.
Laughter is totally allowed.
Yeah. All love though. All love.
Akon's developing it, and they are like promoting it as a real life Wakanda. Like he's like that. So I mean, it's going to be self-powered and self-sufficient. It's going to be its own little unit. So hats off to him.
Yeah, Akon has actually been doing a lot of great things. Helping out different. I think it was Haiti that he was at for a little while, and so Akon can do his thing. So yeah.
Yeah, Akon can definitely do his thing and everything.
Helping to invent, he has people to help invent actual new technology and energy systems. It's crazy.
totally crazy.
I know nothing about this.
You have nothing on that?
Can we go back to?
So I have a question for Ren. You heard about solar panels and you heard about a lot of stuff which generates energy. Can we create energy while playing games?
There is, so far as I'm aware, currently there are two technologies that I personally am interested in. One of which is there's a static ambient charge technology they're working on right now. Basically, they're trying to make, if it's possible, some sort of perpetual energy where we take the energy from the signals that we're constantly being bombarded with using a surface that creates a static charge that will pick those up and self-do batteries. And then the second one that I thought was really interesting is another sort of self-perpetuating technology, but I'm not sure if it will work. It's a looped technology, and it's more in the firmware than it is in the software, where basically they're taking the charge from, it's similar from what I understand, charge from, and it's inductive from one device to another. And the idea is that the jump from one to the other is what will help power the other one, if that makes sense. So the constant kind of flow makes a circuit and creates some sort of perpetual charging energy, which I think is pretty interesting. I would love to see how that would translate for like ACON though, or something larger, because these are for smaller electronic pieces. Ideally being that we would charge each individual kind of chip, weirdly enough, as opposed to having one battery pack. We would have the ability to keep each instrument charged kind of using smaller amounts of electricity generated by the device itself. So I don't necessarily know how that would translate to like ACON or anything like that, but those are the two for me, and as far as charging technologies go, that I'm interested in.
Siren.
Light and small energy systems. That's what he's been working on since 2014.
Oh, well, maybe he's working on that technology.
That would be wonderful if he's working on that. But actually, I had a question that was going to tie kind of what you were asking, Kara, to what's going on with ACON and everything of that nature. And the question is, and it comes back to the kids and all of that. But do you think that we're seeing enough increase in the games that are physically oriented that are also video games? Because I know that there are games that are out there that create the video experience, but they're also the physical exercise aspect of that and everything. And I don't know that we're seeing enough of our kids engaged in those. So I was wondering if you could talk about what you're seeing in that regards, because there is that fear that we're going to see too many kids playing video games and not necessarily getting the physical exercise. But I do know that there are creators out there that are trying to do the games that blend both of them.
Okay, so if we're going on the gaming side with that, I think we saw the initiation and the rise of those sort of games with Pokemon Go, where that was one of those blew the minds, I think, not only of the gamers, but of kind of adults, like parents that were like, is my kid outside on purpose? Like, what? What just happened? I honestly think the reason that we see less of that now is because of the pandemic. There were quite a few other games that had come out that were backing that sort of system, and other games even that were talking about real world and brick and mortar integration, bigger games like Call of Duty and stuff that were considering, and Fortnite, that were considering having some sort of brick and mortar integration where you go and do something, and when you do that, you get a loot box or you get something in game. All of that died with the coronavirus. So yeah, I think that is a fear, but I think we're finding that it's morphing now where, we wanted our kids to go and do that kind of stuff, but now we're getting into VR. Now we're getting into, oh crap. Jatovi maybe can back me up on this. There's other games now that they've got like rigs, like huge rigs that you do. They've got rowing games, Olympic rowing games now. So it's kind of morphed from actually taking the kids outside into bringing the outside indoors, which I think is more of in vein of the whole COVID thing. We're just trying to make life as normal as possible inside. Go ahead, Jatovi, what you got?
Oh, I was just going to say, because, I mean, the VR is huge right now for physical fitness. Like Fit XR. I don't know if anybody else has played that, but good Lord, 15 minutes of that, and I've got beads of sweat. My arms are sore for 2 days.
Oh, even the Oculus games, though. Think about the archery games. I played that for 20 minutes, and I was freaking exhausted, sweaty like a fat kid. And I mean, that was just shooting arrows at zombies,
So the VR stuff is huge for physical fitness, and a lot of the parents. I mean, I don't. It the problem with VR is it's not accessible. Luckily, luckily with the Oculus, they're trying to make it accessible because of the price. That's what makes it inaccessible is the price point.
Yeah, but you know, we're about 3 years away from our phones being VR systems. And that's not even an exaggeration. We could probably physically do it now if we had the production ability, but the technology is already there. Like the all of these huge systems that everybody's buying for VR, I would say don't buy them because we're getting there. And those are going to be obsolete very soon.
The Quest 2 is really, really good. And you can actually do all of your games, like all the Steam VR games can be played via virtual desktop on that Oculus Quest 2. I mean, you can stream it directly across your LAN.
I actually noticed that myself because one of the things I noticed was that one of our people that's a regular here, and I'm trying to remember her name and everything, but she comes out of Florida and all of that, but she's in that VR space and everything, and she's actually had some of our she invited me to one of those events. It was like a online meeting space where a lot of the VR people were there, and I downloaded one of those platforms that you're talking about, Siren, literally on this computer, and like I said, I was able to do a lot of that going into the reality space and all of that. I mean, I didn't have the technical know-how that you have and a number of the other folks have and all of that, but I just remember going in there and being able to play around, and it was able to be done on my computer. So I'm imagining that that'll be available, like you said, on the phone very shortly as well. So I'm seeing that it'll probably be available on the phone, definitely available on your laptop and your desktops and things of that nature. So you're thinking 3 years down the line or even shorter than that?
I mean, technically we could do it right now. Technically, the technology, the bionic chips that are in the cell phones, we're talking quad-core bionic chips with neural interfaces. I mean, those can all technically do it right now. We just don't have the production power, I don't think, to get that stuff made and out right now.
No, not at all. I mean, it's just way too expensive, and until that price point,
it's all the price point.
Yeah,
but I do want to say that this is just me going a little bit bigger, but as far as like a 1, 5, 10-year plan for gaming and all of this, a lot of what we're talking about right now is, in my opinion, going to be somewhat obsolete in about 5 to 10 years, and not because gaming's different or people are going to be different, but and I can't believe I'm going to say this, I'm sure this is super controversial, but 5G will change the world. And I know that sounds like a big statement to make, but as far as the technological revolution goes, 5G is going to it's going to be like the internet, and I don't think people realize it, how much it will change everything. And we're talking those 5G carrier waves. That's a lot of that. What we were talking about earlier, the carriers for the charging, for the static charging, and a lot of that kind of technology is also carried on the 5G waves. When 5G comes out, it's going to be a blank canvas, and it will probably only take, I would guess, 2 to 5 years max for people to really start utilizing that technology on a private level individually to start. I mean, it's going to be really big. When you have a cell phone that is more powerful than the current laptop or computer that you have, you know what I mean, with faster speeds than your internet, even when you're hard lined in, and you could do it from anywhere and you never have to charge that device ever. I mean, things are going to get, at least on my level, when I'm starting to think code and I'm thinking firmware versus software and all of that, I mean, it just starts building kind of exponentially, somewhat like those the processor chips, the mathematics behind the new processor chips. Every 18 months there's a mathematic formula for that, but I see that happening with that technology.
Yeah,
and I've heard that said even in some other shows that I've been involved in, both on this platform and on some other platform as well, where they've been talking about the fact that they were talking about like even the iPhone and how that's like a major innovation, but now we're in its like 12th innovation or variation and everything, and they were saying the same thing about what you're saying, Siren. So the concept I've heard is a lot of people have been talking about that both 5G and even cryptocurrency are totally going to revolutionize everything, and that we're just going to see a total boom within the next 2 or 3 years within the internet because of 5G and cryptocurrency. So do you think that cryptocurrency will play a part in that as well? Because we're thinking that some folks are thinking that even the way that the game is going to go could change because of the way that the money might be handled.
So you start getting into money, and that starts getting into a lot bigger social implications and problems and whatnot. And then we start actually pulling politics into gaming. But I would say that cryptocurrency in and of itself will, in my opinion, never be able to take over because of politics, if that makes any sense. The ability for someone to create or to convert or to sell or their own currency aside from any sort of power or government. I mean, we saw this whole thing kind of go down with the Libra when Facebook started their own currency. I don't know if you guys remember that about 2 years ago. There was a huge hoopla, and I'm talking the EU started flipping their shit. The US was losing it because it was a segregated autonomous currency that was being funded by 7 different nations and backed by almost 22 or 23 different governments, leaving it to be an autonomous currency. And it started getting really, really crazy and really political really fast. I really don't know. I like the idea of cryptocurrency, and I love that being something that we can have. I just don't think that politically that's something that's going to be able to really take off.
Cryptocurrency will not take off because you've got to understand. I mean, as Siren pointed out, and to put it in layman's terms, monopoly. The banker always wins. Simple as that. Until the banker changes the money's never changing. And that's why Libra went down, just like you said. None of the major nations are going to buy into Libra as a global currency because they have their own currency that they can, inflate and deflate.
Correct. I mean, the biggest issue is once you start defunding governments, they're gonna freak out. And like it or not, any kind of cryptocurrency that's segregated from any sort of political power is going to, by definition, do that.
Yeah, money gives you power.
Oh yeah.
So if you change the money, if you change that, you're taking away the power.
I would love for cryptocurrency to become a thing, though.
Technically, in a roundabout way, we've kind of got our own cryptocurrency per game because
well, I mean, he's 100% correct, and that's a lot of what the modeling for Libra went after. They actually hired game producers and writers, believe it or not. Facebook did to kind of get into like what is it in your what are your algorithms and mathematics within your game for your currency? What are the things that you're paying attention to when you create your own currency in society in these worlds? What is it that what pertains to you, and how do you utilize that, and how do you have the users a part of that, and why do you give them this much or not this much? And there's a whole psychology behind that kind of gamification of any sort of monetization. And they even utilize those. I mean, Facebook went for it. They went hard in the paint. I mean, they tried to get some endorsement from EU. They really wanted to get Germany to back them. Obviously, they're the purse of Europe. And I mean, they went for it. And if Facebook, that scary ass conglomerate, can't pull it off, then to me, I feel like that's probably something that's going to die, or at least attempt to be killed.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. Pretty much.
What do you think?
So
I'm trying to figure that out myself, and I'm trying to figure out whether it'll actually take off or not take off. So I'm wondering what Kara thinks, but I'm actually also being very fascinated by, I think we've got our own version of a video game going, because I think Jacoby's son has come up with this whole creation of an idea of just kind of like invade the camera, and that'll be the video game.
Yeah.
He's quiet now.
There we go.
Yeah, he's being quiet. He's trying to think about it.
Trying to find a good place. Sorry, guys.
Oh, it's okay.
Kara's moving to another location.
Yeah, everyone keeps. I think it's me. Yeah, there.
But yeah, I've heard people theorizing that they thought that there would be going on this new currency, like the Big Brother currency. And I agree with y'all that I just don't see that happening because there are too many countries involved, too many corporations involved. So I don't think that will happen. But if it does happen, it could revolutionize everything from gaming to life in general. So
I was going to say that would be a revolution. Yeah, that'd be a freaking revolution.
Yeah, but it's not going to change for. I mean, we're not going to have a global economy that way at all.
It's unfortunate though, because it would be pretty awesome if I'm being real. Having some sort of global economy or some sort of global currency like that would definitely be advantageous, especially as we move further and further into the digital age, where kind of those lines are broke down. I mean, the amount we've got players from the UK, we've got players from the Netherlands, we've got players from Italy, we've got players from the Philippines. I mean, they don't give a shit. They're all playing against each other, having fun. Those lines don't matter.
I don't know if you saw that I just got a Rocket League trading server, but that Rocket League trading server is based in Australia.
Is it?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's awesome.
That's amazing. Siren, just really quickly, what are some of the cultural things that you've seen that have come across that are like cultural differences that do play in the video game world? I know that the video game world is very much about democratization and about conquering those boundaries, but I imagine there are things that are not able to be conquered even with the kind of cultural divides. So what are some of the cultural divides that you do see happening in video games that you would like to see people finding ways to get around?
You know what? If I'm honest, I would flip-flop that. Because 9 times out of 10, what makes gaming so beautiful and what I enjoy, and it's also part of the downside, but one of the best parts of gaming is kind of that anonymity, that blanketing. You become part of the game and you're a game player. So the differentiation between cultures isn't usually between one country and another, one language and another. Most of the time it's between noobs and experts, team players versus shooters versus first-person shooters. You find a total kind of shift in the game world over what segregates us from each other in the gaming world. And I'm not, we're humans, so of course we've got to find ways to segregate ourselves and put ourselves into boxes, because that's where we find security, is in our boxes with our people, and that's okay. But you don't tend to find a lot of times. Okay, example, we had a tournament with Netherlands and the UK right after their soccer tournament, where the Netherlands kicked the crap out of the UK. And as a joke, one of my coworkers is like, you're going to let them beat you in soccer and beat you here, Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And I'm thinking, we just started World War III. Like, you can't talk football to these Europeans, and you can't use that to talk trash. But really, to them, that's a whole different world. When you're in that game, it's so weird. You just kind of melt into that, and your gamer persona, more or less, as weird as that sounds, kind of permeates. But you find, like, even I'm a mobile player, so I'm playing like Clash Royale on my phone. And a lot of my players are Filipino, Argentinian. There are a lot of overseas for there. They all think the same. They all have a lot of the same theories on gameplay, and they talk to each other the same. The emotes are used the same way. Really, the differentiations in gaming that you find aren't national. They're skill-based, which so what I would say is I'd flip it. I would say, what is the crap in the real world that I wish that they would learn from the gaming world? And in all honesty, it's experience reigns. If it were me, if I were to tell people, it's have respect for people that have more experience than you. It doesn't mean they're better than you. It just means they have more experience, and that's okay. Right. That's how you get experience, is by picking their brains and losing to them. You should be okay with losing. And that is a mentality that isn't shared in the real world, that I think would make a big difference.
No, it's not a reality that's shared in the real world. That's my problem with Jacoby. He keeps beating me to death in any game that we play, because he's just a master, and I'm like some rookie in the gaming world.
No, Mark, you're dominant at all games. But one thing that I think that's really cool, especially what you touched on about the gaming world, and how how society breaks down in the gaming world different than it breaks down in the physical world. In society, we've divided ourselves by culture, by race, by sex, and all this other stuff. In the gaming world, those are the things we celebrate.
Oh, yeah. And how many people do you know of Jatovi that play opposite of their gender? Like the amount of times that I pick the most hardcore looking bruh ever as my avatar because he's got a shaved head and a freaking long beard. I'm like, you know?
It's just wild. We celebrate these things, but we find ways in society to denigrate and just attack each other. Oh, well, you're gay. It doesn't matter in the gaming world.
I really think, have you guys seen Ready Player One?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Both of you should watch. I'm not even kidding you. It is one of the best movies ever. And not for the reason that you would think. Not because it's like it's going to change your life. It's not like a Forrest Gump or something where you feel like connected to all of it. But what's brilliant about it is basically this universe that they live in, kind of in the future. The entire world actually happens in the digital world, where the physical world has kind of degraded into this, pardon my French, but this shithole life. It's kind of this Mad Max style where you've got that super, super high 1%, and then everyone else is living in shanties. But all of their worldly possessions are in the game, are in the Oasis, and you start seeing this interesting mentality. But it's what you're talking about, where basically in the beginning monologue talks about you are who you feel like you are here. And you're accepted for that. And it's beautiful. And it doesn't matter what you look like or the shithole you come from. When you're here, you're you. You're your real you, whatever that is for you. And as we change, we are allowed to change here too. We're in the real world. Sometimes you get stuck in those and you can't evolve. And he talks about that. Like, you're never what you seem. You will never have to stay that way. You can always grow. You can always change. You can always get better. And that's why we love it here. And that's 100% true for all of us gamers. It's brilliant and it's beautiful. And we love that. We love that it isn't in real life where I'm stuck as, hi, this is Mother Wren. She's mom to these 2 boys, and that's all she is. That's all she'll ever be, is mom or wife or whatever. You know what I mean? As we evolve, we can physically change the way that looks to other people with our own growth and our own experience, and it feels so good. You know what I mean?
And that's what I think is so interesting, because like I am learning this whole video game world, and in the real world, boundaries are super important. And so, you know, you were talking about earlier about, you know, some people just kind of lose sense of self in time because everything is so ambiguous and so just like, you know, you are who you want to be, and you know, and whatever. So it's just very fascinating to really kind of understand like how can boundaries be instilled? Like how can nutrition and health be like instilled in players? And I think it's great. I want to check out the Wilhelm, just like read about it at least, that even exists. You know, like my little mind is working on how that can even be something that can be talked about like with gamers, you know, because even my brother, he's like, you know, oh, you know, the diet of a gamer is like Doritos and Hot Pockets. And, you know.
Well, there's a ton of nutrition companies right now getting involved with gaming. Hang on, Levi, what was the name of the company right now that you're saying they were partnering with people? And
snack companies jumped in quick.
Really? Snacks? That makes sense.
Energy drink companies jumped in quick.
Well, I want to say that like the UCLA and someone else had backed a nutrition program and had funded something for gaming specific, game eccentric, and with Epic Games.
Wow.
I just read about this, and neither one of us are 100% clear. I promise you, though, next week I'll have that info for you. We don't necessarily have to look it up right now, but when I say like there's nutrition companies getting involved, I don't just mean like here's a fun snack, it's a Go-Gurt. Like I'm talking, they're investing hard cash and research hours into getting protein, getting vitamins, getting all of this into a way that gamers will utilize it.
So
yeah,
one of the big reasons a lot of them are jumping in, which I pointed out, I think weeks back, because I don't know, Siren, if you've ever checked out newzoo.com. It's one of the best sites to check out all the money that's surrounding the gaming world. It's just unreal. But there was an article there, and I think it was Statista that also talked about it. But the brand loyalty of gamers is 33% higher than the brand loyalty of other sports out there.
Oh yeah, I believe that.
So these companies are now really realizing it, because it's a $1 billion+ industry.
Oh yeah.
And the crazy part about it is that $1 billion+ is only a small sliver of what the actual industry is, because the video game industry, it gross, or it actually nets and grosses double, or the movie and music industry combined. So it's sitting well upwards of close of 165 billion plus in the video game industry alone. So if you're taking that little $1 billion piece that's only dealing with esports, but understanding that esports is driving this 160 some odd plus $1 billion industry, yeah, a lot of these snack companies jumped in real fast. A lot of these nutrition companies are now recognizing. I mean, because I normally get an email from there's a company out there called Synopsys. They do their Synopsys, and then I have a friend who is a lawyer for the video game industry, or in the video game industry, does IP law stuff and a whole bunch of other things. He also sends out a newsletter. It's Odin Law. I need to have him on one time. You got to meet him. Good guy, Brandon, love him. But on this one email I got, matter of fact, I pulled it up really quick, but Twitch Rivals and Duncan have formed a combo.
Twitch Rivals?
Yep, Twitch Rivals.
I don't know what that is.
Twitch Rival? That's hard to believe that there's even one of those out there.
What is it?
So Twitch Rivals, Twitch, of course, they have their different sections up under it.
Oh, yeah.
Rivals is one of their other groups that's in there. But Twitch Rivals, one of their groups under Twitch, is partnering with Duncan.
Dunkin'
it is
Donuts? Dunkin' Brothers? Dunkin'.
Yeah, Dunkin'
That's
Donuts.
not nutrition.
Well, so that's what I was going to say is you were talking about a lot of these snack food companies are jumping on board, but that isn't nutrition. That is them jumping on board because they have a convenience factor and they're attempting to profit off of it. I'm sorry, what I was referring to is genuine nutrition, where we're talking about actual research is being done into the most efficient way to hydrate players. How much hydration do they need if they're not moving around? What do we need to do about muscle atrophy and building? What amino acids are necessary to keep the breakdown from happening when they're sitting for extended periods of time? That sort of stuff. Do we need to up their lipids? Adrenal fatigue, all of that kind of stuff. That was more of what I was referring to. Is yes, they've jumped on that. They've been on that for years. That whole convenience food thing. But what I find interesting is the actual research, legitimate scientific research being done on what is happening to the human body as the gamers are gaming. How is their endocrine system, their lymphatic system reacting? What physiological changes are happening because of the pituitary gland in the brain and the different hormones it's sending out? And then what is it that we need to do to protect the body or to keep it either in stasis or to heal it from whatever damage is being done? And those are all things that are actually being addressed right now in true research, double-blind studies, and in multiple, getting peer-reviewed as well. That's the kind of stuff I'm really glad and interested in finding more out. However, that also means that now we're talking big pharma and big beef, big oil, these bigger, huge industries, these old school kind of grandfathered industries are now genuinely taking interest in this gaming community and are going to find vested interests. And so that is something that I think, as far as a macro view goes, that we should probably keep an eye on as gamers or, as anybody kind of, fingers crossed, caring about this emerging economy and this new kind of cultural growth that we're taking. Just making sure that, it sounds bad, but that we kind of allow it to grow naturally and we don't allow these large corps to walk in and put their agendas on this this new aspect, I think, of our lives. Because to say that it isn't an aspect of all of our lives, whether or not you're like me and Jatovi who do game, or you're like Kara who is into health and sciences, you're Mark who is a freaking personality in front of 1.5 million people, all of us are affected by this. This changes all of our lives, and it is a part of all of our lives, whether we like it or not. You know what I mean? In large or small ways. So how do we protect ourselves or protect, our way of living?
Yeah.
So my guess is we're talking about stuff like this, where the Esports Observer, talking about the health of esports players.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Similar.
I like that.
Well, I mean, all this is an expose stating that we treat our bodies like dick, and I think we all know that's a thing.
Yeah.
Like, so I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with this. It's just kind of
more so in real life, and then like you add gaming to it. That's interesting. Like all of this, the more I'm learning about this gaming world, I don't know. That's interesting.
I mean, the gaming world was initially used as PR, though. That's the problem. So, like Red Bull, like you saw Ninja with a Red Bull and whatnot. I mean, you have to remember that when this started, it wasn't necessarily taken as a sport. It was taken more as a commercial. Hey, kids like this. So what can we put on here that kids will buy? If that makes sense. It wasn't considered really its own economy. It wasn't considered a part of culture. It wasn't considered any of that shit. It was literally a vehicle to get your promos out. So no, it wasn't healthy. I mean, and nobody was considering it even seriously. They weren't considering Ninja as a professional. They considered him a kid with a controller. You know what I mean? That other kids watched. Now you're starting to see that shift, like we were talking about the first week, where it is now becoming a legitimate, its own economy. It is now becoming cultural. It is now becoming something that is being utilized as a way as a bridge between generations, as a bridge between the technological children and the analog adults. And because it's kind of that single thing that carries over through everything. And we're also seeing gamification at work. We're seeing gamification with our meds. I mean, hell, they're like, they've got the pill dispensers now that are gamified. I mean, it's everywhere. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things that has become so much a part of life that now that it is accepted as normal, oh shit, all we've ever done is give those kids Red Bulls, Slim Jims, and Cheese Whiz, and now they're adults with heart disease, high cholesterol, you know what I mean? Anxiety disorders because they've been in adrenal crash for 20 years. You know what I mean? But so now they care.
But and
it's really sorry, go on. I was
just gonna say the funny part is everything you said is the business mindset.
Mm-hmm. Oh, of course,
because the parents still see it as kids, and so that's the crazy part.
Yeah,
is that the business business world sees this money, sees everything about it, and will pump out all this crap, and the parents will buy it easy because hey, my child loves it, and it lets me have that relaxation time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but there has to be some social responsibility behind it all too, and
we didn't know that then.
Yeah, but I mean,
in our defense,
now I feel like, well, no, I didn't mean like then, but I think that it's important now to have that sense of social responsibility because we're learning more about that gaming can actually be a very useful tool for just a sense of community, especially in the pandemic, and problem solving skills and whatnot. And, it seems like there needs to be more of a continued pull for social responsibility and understanding. And because people love to just like shame gaming, but it really is a useful tool. And so it's really interesting that there are still companies like Duncan trying to get into gaming when it seems like more so now, there needs to be more and more research around.
But I think we have to I think we have to accept that companies are going to do what companies need to do for them. So, like, I don't have an issue with Dunkin' getting involved because that's Dunkin' Donuts makes donuts. Like, I don't expect them to start making, high energy protein balls or something. You know what I mean? And I get that. I do. The hardest part for me, maybe this is political, but I'm a little bit in the middle where I feel like it is a brand new economy, so people should be. I don't know, that social awareness that you're talking about. I do think is important, but I think it's individual as well. Like, I think there's got to be a level of individual responsibility there. Is it really Dunkin' Donuts' fault that kids are getting fat because they eat 2 dozen donuts? Because that's what you know what I mean?
I didn't mean it
or is
like
that?
Yeah.
No.
Like that, but
I totally agree though. I just, the social responsibility part is hard. It's a tough one. It's a tough balance that, I mean, in all honesty, we haven't even found in the real world really either, because it's kind of like, where do you stand on that whole thing? Do you allow the businesses to run their business as it is for what it is, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That is tough.
Yeah.
Leveling up.
Speaking of Siren and Karen and everything, speaking of social responsibility, I was just curious. I'm gonna date myself now. I remember a movie called Tron, and that was kind of like the video game movie and everything. So when it comes to mass movies that are kind of a video game appeal, what are some of the ones that you actually think capture the idea of a video game? So I'd love to hear your thoughts about some that are out there now. Some people argue that Wakanda was a video game.
Ready Player One for me, 100%. Y'all really definitely should watch that if you want to see what gaming means to gamers, how much it means to us, and you'll actually feel it in that movie. Like, by the end, you realize how much it becomes a part of you.
Oh wow!
I'm telling you, and it's beautiful. It's a great movie, and it's very well done. It's even better than the book, which is weird, but it's because the book was written so long ago, so they update. Anyways, but it's very, very good. What do you think, Jatovi?
Oh yeah, Ready Player One is probably the one of the top. There's also Ender's Game.
Oh,
Ender's Game was, I
love the book. I haven't seen the movie. I won't watch it.
So the book is better than the movie. However, it's still about, in a sense, a kid who was a dominant, who was better than everybody else, but he's playing a video game and he still wants to be with everybody else. But he was like the Jedi the only Jedi of all.
In his defense, that thing definitely like connected to him psychically.
So yeah. And see, I don't want to give things away. So
that's an interesting one. I'm not sure if I agree, though. I'm not sure if I agree that Ender's Game is a gamer's one. Oddly enough.
And they're playing a game.
I mean, they are. You're not wrong. Crap.
They're playing. And the funny part about it, when I watched the Ender's Game, in the way they created the game, it was no more than the game that you play in Final Fantasy VII. The soccer game?
Yeah. But you're 100% right on that.
That was it. That was the game. And I was like, okay, I know exactly what this is.
Okay. I'll agree to disagree. Honestly, I think the other closest one would be Transformers. I think that's a great gamer's game. Weirdly enough, I know it's not necessarily like a video game, but I think that is one that immerses you in that kind of toy world, that game world that doesn't really exist, that makes you feel like you're there and a part of it, and you kind of get to make those choices.
I think all the giant kaiju robot movies really put you there, though.
Yeah, that is true.
Oh my goodness!
What about Tomb Raider?
It was.
How do you think Tomb Raider was a good example of games going to film?
What about Tomb Raider did you not like? Just from your standpoint.
Mine or Jatovi's?
Which one, Mark? Oh, Mark.
Either one of them. The first, the second, any of the Tomb Raiders.
Oh. Go for it, Jatovi.
Me first?
Okay.
No, you first. I
don't know. That's tough. I mean, I only ask about Tomb Raider because I'm trying to think of games that got turned into movies. But Tomb Raider's hard because even when you play Tomb Raider, You don't. Oh.
So I will say the last Tomb Raider, or well, not really the last one. But when they changed it, I think they did a good job of changing it.
I didn't see the newest one.
It was they gave it away free on the PlayStation Store a few months back, so I decided to take advantage of it. And I like it better than the old Tomb Raiders. The old Tomb Raiders didn't really have much of a story. This one did. It felt like a light version of The Last of Us.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie to you, Mark. Tell me one more time what the question is. Now I've gotten sidetracked. Now all I can think about is all these random movies off video games.
Although now I'm stuck on that too. But
I'm just kind of curious as to y'all thoughts about Tomb Raider, whether it was a good movie or a not good movie, and how it works as a video game.
It's tough. Anytime you take a video game and you move it over, it's always hard. Just because you take the whole point of a video game where you're in control. You take that away. So it ends up being just a giant cutscene where all of us gamers, we love our cutscenes. We love knowing the storyline behind our games, but that's basically all it turns into is seeing your favorite characters getting blown up, into a big screen backstory.
Yeah. Although I will say the best game translation to a movie or a TV show is still Castlevania right now.
What?
Yes. Castlevania on Netflix is phenomenal.
I have no idea what you're even talking. Honest to God.
Goodness.
But I mean, I didn't realize it was a game, I guess.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, I've seen Castlevania. I just didn't realize it was a game. Yeah. Oh, yes, I did know it was. That's where Simon is from and stuff, right?
Yes.
Oh, my crap.
Yes. But Castlevania is phenomenal on Netflix. It's such a great show.
Oh, now I have to watch it. I totally didn't put that together.
The first season isn't all that great. It leads into the second season, which is really good, But the third season, you will literally, and I kid you not, you will literally, on one of the final battles, you'll stand up and cheer.
Oh, I do that all the time. I'm so in.
Oh, I'm
obnoxious in theaters. I'm so glad that we don't go to movie theaters anymore because I have no dignity walking out of there.
You're obnoxious in the movie theater? Are you the one who tells the whole plot?
Oh, no. I'm the one who's like, something goes down. I'm like, woo, let's go. Like, that's me. I've been hit with so many things. Go ahead, sorry.
I'm just gonna bust in and be like, "Hey, gotta go. It was good seeing you all." And Siren, we will definitely talk video clips.
You got it. But, you got it.
So much.
Yeah, no, you got to bounce. You've always got to bounce. Always running away.
Bye, guys.
Bye,
That's a good thing. Great seeing you as always. I know you got to bounce, and we'll continue the conversation.
See, I'm excited. Well, speaking of the let's go. I'm excited about the Godzilla vs. King Kong.
What? Are more than Mortal Kombat?
Yes, Mortal Kombat. I was mad. Mad at Mortal Kombat.
Why?
Oh my goodness. So
we're gonna fight. We're gonna fight you and me.
Oh, see, I got Street Fighter all ready to go on the PlayStation. Anytime you want to take something, you want some of the smoke.
Oh, you're a Street Fighter kid? All right, hold my earrings. Hang on.
Come get this smoke. Oh, I done put the phone down.
Sub-Zero looks legit. Oh my God, I can't wait.
Don't get me wrong, Sub-Zero looked great, but when he took Jack's arms that looked a little cheesy, I was like, okay.
It's supposed to. That's half the fun. No, I love it.
But I don't know if they're going to take it serious or they're going to take it as a joke.
I will say that the actors they have are fantastic actors. I don't know if you've ever watched the show Warrior on HBO.
No, because I've been meaning to watch Warrior.
It's a fantastic show.
Everybody says it's great. I really want to see it.
The coolest part about Warrior is that the actors not only do their own stunts, they choreograph them. So they hired these actors as basically they hired stunt doubles and said, "Here's a show for you. What can you do?" And they get to create all of their own. So it's really cool to see their own style. Like you watch it and you're like, "How are there so many different fighting styles in one show?" And then you realize it's because every single one of them creates their own fighting style for their own character, and they do all the choreography. It's awesome.
Because see, I'm a big Bruce Lee fan. I mean, Bruce Lee is the greatest.
I just watched Ip Man last night.
Really?
Yeah, I love it.
Ip Man's cool. And then right after Bruce Lee comes Jackie Chan. Because everybody wants to throw in Jet Li and Ip Man and all the other stuff. No, give me Jackie Chan because
Ip Man trained Bruce Lee. He was his teacher.
Well, Bruce Lee with the Wing, was it Wing Chun?
Yeah, Ip Man taught him Wing Chun. Okay. Ip Man, he led the revolution in China. Ip Man, the movie is a biopic about the guy.
But but Ip Man is okay. But don't get me wrong, Jackie Chan with Drunken Master. When he
that was fantastic. Forbidden Kingdom, when he does the drunken. The drunk kung fu is actually, that's legit too. That's a real martial art.
And so when he went through all of those, I was like, okay, Jackie, you got me.
He's very talented, for sure.
Super talented, and it does all of his stunts and everything. By the way, I forgot where we were going with all of this.
He was just asking about the games that we like.
Where we're going and everything. So there's a great conversation, but I was actually enjoying the conversation. I was actually just thinking about one of our past guests, Mr. Curtis, who was on one of my shows, and he actually worked with Jackie Chan and actually has done a lot of martial arts over there in California. So he's actually worked with him and has had the pleasure of meeting him. And he was on one of my previous shows, I think a couple of weeks ago. So I'll try to bring him into one of our shows so you can have that look on your face when you see Mr. Curtis, who apparently knows Mr. Chan and knows a couple of those other folks. I think he even met Bruce back in the day because he's an older gentleman and everything. So I'm going to see if we can't get him going on.
No, don't bring him on. Don't. I will fangirl out, and it's not cute, and I don't wear it well, and I will make him uncomfortable, and not even on purpose. I will try to be super cool, and it will be super awkward, and I won't breathe like this. I'll just keep talking. Oh my God, somebody say something.
Yes, Mark, you got to bring him on now because I got to see this.
That's awesome.
You got to see this reaction, but
but
the other thing that y'all talk about, which is we just go all over the place in this show. That's why we love doing this show, right, Jacoby? But the other thing that you talk about was stunt people, and I had the pleasure of having a producer on. The producer is not a stunt person, but one of the people that was involved in this film company is a stunt person, and apparently he's damaged 70 to 80% of his body because he blows up things. So I'm already scared to get him on at some point because I don't even want to know what his body looks like now, because he even has said that he's done so many stunts that, doing detonating and stuff and this just going all wrong. So he's hurt all kinds of parts of his body.
I would love to talk. So I was a trained dancer my whole life. I was a classically trained ballerina, and I did a lot of random shows and crap. But a lot of times people don't know about dancers is the life of a professional dancer is very, very small and very short. So a lot of us end up doing magic shows because we're small, we're flexible, and also stunts. So I would be very interested to talk to someone who's an actual stunt double, because that's somewhat the world that I came from. They hire us a ton as stunt doubles.
Wait a minute, I'm trying to back up. So you're trying to tell me that most ballerinas actually turn into those magician assistants because y'all can fit into the boxes and things of that nature?
100%. Yep. I cannot tell you how many magic shows I've done where they're just Asian get in here, other Asian come out over there, curl up in a ball. It works every time. Because there's little bitty spots they put us in weird positions. So a lot of us do. We end up either in some sort of magic show, or a lot of us, as weird as it sounds, end up in Vegas doing magic shows. And they're like, "Oh, you dance in Vegas?" And we're like, "Yes, we're doing our career, what we trained to do, not magic shows."
Interesting.
Toby may have asked you this the last time you were here, but since you brought it up, and I'm going to just go there. What made you switch from being a ballerina to being so involved in the video game world? What was that transition like from being a professional ballerina?
That's a long one. So I was military, and we moved overseas. I lived overseas for 7 years. We had 2 back-to-back overseas. So I had spent 3 years in Japan, then 4 years in England, and everything kind of falls off there. You lose all of your connections as a professional dancer when you spend 7 years over there, and your name can't really get out. You don't get any shows, you don't get any work, and I became a mom. So it was family and military and doing that, and then getting back over here. I started teaching dance again, and then I also started coaching wrestling. I come from a wrestling family, so that was pretty normal to move into. But then my youngest got into gaming, and he wanted to do tournaments. And as we got more and more into it, we started realizing, like, one, I don't know shit about what I'm talking about or doing in this universe, and two, nobody seems to really know what they're doing. Like, you kind of ask people and they're like, yeah, I put up a Google Doc so people could turn in their scores, and that's how I run tournaments. And you're like, oh no, that's not a thing. And so it kind of got into that where we just went, is there a better way to do this? Is there a safer way to do this? Is there a way that we can ensure that as a parent, I feel a little bit better about my son getting online and playing Fortnite, with a bunch of other kids? And I have no idea. Are all those kids 12 like him? Or is there a 45-year-old man in there that wants, pictures of my son's socks? You know what I'm saying?
We're not talking about your feet again. We talked about your feet last time.
But that's kind of where it morphed into. Is I went from being, my own person, just like all of us, to having kids and then losing your kind of identity for a little bit because you kind of fall into that. And now kind of getting back into that, realizing this is more or less what I like. This is what I enjoy, is playing games anyways. And now we've taken that to another level where we're now part of, an actual business. We actually have a board. We have it's cool. It's cool to see what it's morphed into. Something that just went from there's got to be a fun way to play with our kid, to this.
Wow.
That help? Or was that weird?
Yeah, that's interesting, and just fascinating that you did that and everything. And I just love people that go through different careers. By the way, my dad's other half, and they've been together for a number of years and everything. I think almost 20, 25 years. That Linda Bellins is actually a former dance critic and definitely a former dancer herself. So she's actually still doing dancing even in the older age. Because, like I said, she's one of those people that believes that we should still dance well into our as we get older and older. Because she's even done some dance performances in that regard and things of that nature. So it sounds to me like you got the best of both worlds, both doing the physical exercise, because I was thinking that you're still doing that with dance, but also the mind kind of things that there's a lot of times what I think about when I think of video games.
Before you jump into the answer on that one, Siren, I just want to introduce, this is my good buddy out of New York. He runs Play All Gaming up there in New York. They do fight tournaments and everything else. And Jahan, or Virgo, let me let you know, there's already a battle that Siren and I have to go through because she wanted some of that smoke in Street Fighter. So we got Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat that's gonna happen at one of these times.
What do you pick?
I hear that.
What do you pick? Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat? It's important.
Street Fighter, all the way. I grew up on Street Fighter. Yeah.
That's it. It's nice to see you guys. I'm done.
Sorry, Street Fighter all the way. Especially I guess
you gonna leave on that note, Siren? That's just wrong.
No, especially in my earlier days, Street Fighter has been a huge part of just with everything, like with friends, playing and all that other stuff. Mortal Kombat was kind of weird because the first time I played Mortal Kombat, I go to this church called Abyssinian Baptist Church, and on Sundays, up the block from the church, there was a Jamaican spot, and they used to sell it was a little small spot, and they used to sell Jamaican food and everything else. And magically, they had 2 arcade machines there. And the crazy thing is that they had Mortal Kombat. That was the first time I ever seen Mortal Kombat, was at the Jamaican store. So I was like, wow, okay, they got a Mortal Kombat machine here. So I thought it was very interesting, and that's the first time I seen it. And then the next to it, of course, obviously was Street Fighter 2, but it was like the Rainbow Edition. So that was the one where you could be able to actually press start and it changed the character, and it had the fireballs going up and down. So it was very interesting at those times, especially, how cheap it was to play, our arcade game was like 25 cents, 50 cents. So now, you used to go to these Dave and Buster's, it's like $3 now. But
I do love Street Fighter. I'll be honest, I feel about Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat the way I do about DC and Marvel. You can like one more, but in my mind, I'm still glad they both exist.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I like all different type of fighting games. So it's I grew up in playing majority of them. I used to have subscriptions to Game Pro, and There was this local arcade where I lived across the street. Used to have like they only had like actually like Pac-Man, and they had all the old stuff there.
Oh,
And I was actually the
Pac-Man.
main reason. I was actually the main reason why they changed their whole arcade to just nothing but fighting games. Because I used to have my Game Pro. I used to have
Aw.
like all the exclusives of like when all the new fighting games were coming out, and I used to tell the owner, "Hey, these new fighting games are coming out. You should get it." And they weren't too sure. They didn't know whether if it was gonna make profit. But once they got rid of all the foreign machines, like all the old stuff, and then put nothing but fighting games. It became like a fighting heaven for the community in the area.
That's
And
awesome.
we're talking about a lot of people coming every day after school. And we talk about lines, like people putting their quarters up, people talking trash. And back in the
I
day,
love that they listen to you. That's freaking
yeah.
awesome.
So, and it was funny because I ended up working there at the age of 13. So that was like literally my first job. I was
Oh.
like an arcade, kind of like giving out quarters. That's all I really did. But I was pretty much there every day because it kind of kept me out of the streets. So,
Hell yeah.
back then I lived in Harlem. So Harlem was very drug infested. There was like crackhead buildings throughout the area, and I had friends of mine who ended up missing. So it was really bad times at in that period. So arcades was like my safe haven. And that's the reason why I always look forward to always anything gaming related, always been my safe space.
That's
So
what we were
that's the
talking
reason
about
why
earlier,
now,
Mark.
yeah.
Yep, exactly.
So now I invested myself into the gaming market because now things have completely changed. Before
Yeah.
then, my mother used to tell me gaming won't get you anywhere. Now I'm a CEO of my own company, a little small
Whoop,
company,
whoop.
and I'm doing independent contracting, helping out with corporations to understand the market better. I worked with Jatovi numerous times. He could let you know what I've contributed to North Carolina in Durham to help out as much as I can, even within my own area, because I'm from New York City. But I do travel a lot to different states to help out with programs and stuff like that.
That's freaking awesome. That's so cool.
Mm.
My heart. It's so big and full. I love it. That's
Yeah,
freaking wonderful, bruh. I love it.
I love how everything it is now because it's changing lives. Especially for people my age, because I'm 37. So for me now, it's like
Me too.
as a competitor, I've always been on competing. Going to tournaments, but I never had the opportunity to travel like how we do now, especially with esports. There's tournaments everywhere. So I created Play All Gaming because I wanted to give minorities the opportunity to travel to different tournaments throughout the states. So I came up with cost-effective ideas to be able to travel out to the tournament. So we'll rent out like a 15-passenger van,
Yeah.
and the cost of like of them getting there and hotel was like cheap. So it's like $60. You could go there and back and a hotel room stay for 2 nights.
Mm.
So
Hell
these
yeah.
type of ideas allow a lot of minorities who didn't have that much money to be able to go out and experience this type of gaming lifestyle, and they love it. A lot of them went out to be big players. I had players. I had 3 black brothers go to Japan, which I'm super proud of because it was like invitation only.
Yeah.
So, these type of things, like it really empower me. Like it gave me so much, to look forward to because I'm able to do these things and help people get to those, to those areas where they thought they would never get to.
Yeah. Have you thought about getting
Hey
any kind of
Virgo,
sponsorship
quick question
or
for you and
partner?
everything, because I was just thinking
Yeah,
about
of
this.
course.
Too often, we oftentimes are seen as strictly, and by we I mean the minority community, as strictly the consumers, and not enough of the owners. So, what kind of advice do you give to folks when they are thinking that they want to go into where you are, or even where Jatovia is? Because I think that we need to see more of us going into the ownership level. Because I know that we are definitely, as in so many trades, we are like the
Hmm.
primary consumers, but we're not seeing enough on the ownership side. So, what kind of advice
Yeah.
do you give to folks if they are thinking about even going into that ownership side?
Well, for me, I kind of like went and head in first, like honestly, like because this is my love and my passion. So of course, I had a lot of mistakes along the way, and I always try to teach people to have a better understanding about whatever they're getting into because there's also an investment, right? Like anytime you're doing gaming, you got to invest in yourself, right? And I try to teach them not to really rely on people as much because a lot of the things I've seen, because I've seen the dark side of the esports market and everything else. So I can completely tell you my experiences and what I've dealt with before. And I try to teach my players in my group to not really rely on anyone, because you yourself can create the content yourself. You just got to believe in what you can do and your capabilities of being able to produce that type of stuff. I have players who are extremely good, but then social wise, they're not really there, right? Like they're shy, like these guys who are like just been in their room playing all day, but they're extremely crazy. They've been like online monsters, and then they come offline, and people are like, "Where's this guy been all this time?" Because I'm able to scout and get them to come out into this type of environment. So there's a lot of things. There's so many different dynamics to this stuff that you have to teach people to have them understand how to deal with contracts and dealing with people who actually really care about what you do as a gamer. Because sometimes people get into contracts and screw them over. They end up losing money. I mean, we've seen it to where people have been threatened that they'll lose their house, or with
Yep.
that was given by companies and stuff like that, and they'll lose all the money and endorsements. So these are the things that you really have to teach and educate, and that's the reason why I'm looking forward to hopefully opening up a non-for-profit to where it's teaching kids on learning how to do basic stuff and just learning how to do it on your own, because I think it's very important, and also can help you save money as well. If you really think about it, when you're doing like streaming stuff like that, like you sometimes rely on people to do your emotes, right? Like you're hiring people to do your emotes, you're hiring people to do your video production. There's so many factors into it now, like just the business industry, so with esports, I think it's still premature, because it's not like someone like there's like not one company that I could think of is like dominating the market, right? They might have like a really good team where they're like winning tournaments left and right, but they're not really dominating the market to where like people like myself can come out of nowhere and build something from there. So, it's just a lot. It's a really lot to kind of like get into. And I hope that people would do their homework before they get into this industry, because I don't want them to make the same mistakes that I have.
I think to stay on this topic would be to stick on this topic about trying to get more minority, or the minority representation in gaming and everything. I think the important piece also that we have to focus on, which I think that the growth and minority representation would help on. See, I like doing a little research on the side. One of the big things that this article points out is that the ethnicity of video game developers globally, it's 68% Caucasian, 18% Southeast Asian, Latinx 5%. If you notice, the African American percent in the actual video game developers globally is only at like 1%. So I think the growth, and same thing with women. Women is only 28% globally. So I think the more minority representation and the more that we can get people involved. And
okay, wait 1 second. I want to stop you there, because I think that this is a bit of an skewed statistic, just as an FYI. It's not that it's not correct, but I do think that you need to take into consideration that a lot of the places that they're producing the software, because this is gaming development, happens in the Balkans. Not even in the US. So this isn't necessarily a racial thing, just as an FYI. A lot of those are actually produced in countries that are third world countries.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But they just happen to be given the white, even though they're technically, I think, Russian or Prussian, or I just think that maybe you should be a little bit careful with this one, because it does make it seem like in the US, the connotation is that this is US only. But if this is about development, it's a little bit skewed.
So what I'm trying to put it as, if I do an analogy, you have tons and tons of people making music, from Ed Sheeran to the guy down the street. Tons and tons of people making music, but you don't have that ownership at that top level that's producing. And
that's not what this is.
If the game developers globally developing the game, where they take the game itself and actually put their label on top of it.
But developers are not the companies. That's what I'm getting at. Because like you can have 7 different companies that all do different things, that their game or that their software or their UIX is going to be developed by someone in Kazakhstan or something like that. because that's the same firm that always does those UIXs. Do you see what I'm saying?
So Siren, yeah, I see what you're saying, but Siren, how would you say we're doing in terms of women representation, or even for that matter, other minority cultures, not just the African American, but the Asian, the Hispanic cultures, and other things in terms of the video games?
He's totally right. We're definitely misrepresented. I just want to caution, because it does matter. If you're going to use statistics, it matters that you understand the statistics entirely. Yeah. That's all. So I do 100% agree. Yes. I do think that there's a misrepresentation. It is definitely flawed, but just I'm a weird nerd like that. For me, analytics are important. Fine. It's important that you use it right. That's all.
You are just fine. I mean, I was just talking about the top level, because that top level is where I'm trying to push people to.
Right.
Keep going. Keep going.
No, I'm sorry. I agree with you. It's just this. Maybe I'm just stuck because this is just not the right data point necessarily to pull. That's all. But I do 100% agree with you. There is definitely a disparity there. But we had talked about that first week. That disparity comes about not necessarily because of race. We're talking economics. We don't have the damn opportunity.
And that's why
we are given far less opportunity to do it.
And that's where I'm trying to get to, is that is having more representation can give us that opportunity, I think.
Does representation equal opportunity? I don't necessarily think that that's a correlative line. I don't think that there's a straight line from one to the other. I do think it maybe brings awareness, or maybe it brings, a sense of responsibility or empowerment. I remember as a little girl watching Christy Yamaguchi on as a skater and thinking that was as an adopted little Asian girl in Oklahoma, no one else looked like me. Seeing her on the TV was a big deal. I get the representation factor, and I know what that means to people. And I'm not downplaying that, but I don't necessarily think that because I was motivated by Christy Yamaguchi, somehow the opportunity for me to become a figure skater magically appeared. So I don't necessarily know that representation has a direct correlation to opportunity. Does that make sense? Individual opportunity.
We can do,
so if
Siren and Virgo, what do you think we can do to get more representation? Is it a matter of us teaching our kids about coding and about things of that nature at an early age? But what can we do as just folks in general? I mean,
representation or opportunity?
Industry, but what can we do? Opportunity.
Oh, opportunity. Sorry.
Like I said, I think the opportunity starts with the community, right? That community, you gotta, the location have to have gaming community where people can go to get information, to have an understanding about where they can go to get noticed. It really also depends on the person. Not everyone wants to probably be like a content creator or whatever, or they just gaming just to have fun. So it's just all about what process that they want to go through in order to get to that particular level in the gaming industry. So I think having anything to have information, again, a organization that can be able to help also parents too, because what it is, they see that their kids are constantly playing Fortnite, right? That's the main thing. I have parents come to me and say, hey, listen, my kid is playing Fortnite all the time. What can I do, to help them at least get something out of it? They're putting in 6-7 hours, right? What are the things? I'm well, buy them a PC, get, I go through the steps with them on how to get them to be more productive and more active, and then also teach them to learn how to learn new things. Again, same thing with doing their own emotes or doing their own video production. I think that there's a huge education portion of it within that realm that could definitely get kids to be a part of it, and then also could use that skill set not only just for gaming, but they can, they'll have that skill set to use it for anything else. So it's just all of a matter of what direction they will go and what they're willing to do in order to go and pursue that type of advancement within the industry.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean,
as far as opportunity, for sure.
Yeah, because I think when it comes, it's not really more what's given. It's more what you want to do, right? I think, and that's what falls down to it. I never really had a thought about what I wanted as a career, right? I just kind of like video games. And then it always dawned to me, what can we do to kind of get to that realm of making video games more of an industry or a business, right? And you start to see things start to evolve and develop. Like I got into it. I was mainly working at a pharmaceutical company for 7 years, and that wasn't technically my. I mean, and everyone goes through this. Like when you go to college, you pick like a subject, and that's not like that's not the subject that you actually like, but you just like whatever. I'm just gonna go for this subject, and you graduated, but you don't really do that actual thing that you graduated for. So
I
these are the
feel
things that
attacked.
you kind of so you kind of like find yourself again in this situation where you're like finding what makes you, like what makes you stand out, what makes you feel comfortable. And video game has always been there. It's crazy how it processed me through this trial and error of working with the pharmaceutical company for 7 years, taking that money that I invested and saved and put that towards the gaming industry when I realized that there was a birth in it. So, it's again, you just have to, it depends on what kids or whoever wants to do to kind of like further themselves in the industry.
Mm-hmm. I think another thing that you touched on that's really important is, okay, how do I say this nicely? There, well,
okay.
I want to say what you said, but I
Okay.
totally agree. One of the
Okay.
more important parts is if they don't want it, you know what I mean? Like there's a level of
Mhm.
self-responsibility there that matters. We can offer the opportunity over and over and over again. But the coolest part of I think what he's doing, what we're all trying to do, is giving that to the kids too. Not just giving them the opportunity, but it's their responsibility. What is it that you want? I'm not going to hand it to you for free. I'm giving you the opportunity. Do you want to do coding? Do you want to be a competitor? Do you want to, you know what I mean? One of the things that he put on that I think is really important is the opportunity only takes them so far.
Mhm.
It's giving them that empowerment and giving them that responsibility to, I'm not doing it for you. You have to do it yourself. But I'll be there every single step. I'll help you every single place that I can. And that's a huge thing that in gaming and that gamification is wonderful in doing. It gives people that kind of self-esteem, that empowerment level. They get to pick. They know what they're doing. The work they put in is visual. It's tangible. They can see it either in their avatar, as small as that. The more you do, the more ranks you get or whatever. Or even on the flip is I went from being a gamer to a competitor to now being the leader of my clan to now, you know what I mean? Now I run my own league. Now I'm processing and sponsoring players. I mean, it all builds on itself as far or as short as that bear wants to take that opportunity. And that's really cool. But it can also be kind of sad. It's also kind of frustrating. I don't know, Virgo, if you've run into this. I have personally with the kiddos is I want more for them. I want it for them. And I love that opportunity. And a lot of times you see that either they're not ready for it or they don't understand it. One or the other. And it's heartbreaking. It is. But you have to allow them to do that where it's like, okay, you don't want to put that work in, that's fine. I'm here for you when you're ready in any aspect you want. But right now, bruh, if you're not going to put the work in, then I'm going to go invest it in someone who will.
Yeah.
And that's a lesson that's hard, I feel like, for those of us that are trying to continually give opportunities to kids that don't necessarily get it, especially when we know they're throwing it away sometimes because that's their defense mechanism. Nothing good happens to me in my life. This is really good. And before it goes bad, before someone can take it from me, I'm going to ruin it so that it can't hurt me later. And you see that too. And that really sucks because you kind of have to let them.
So then how can we, in terms of that defense mechanism, because that's something that parents do as well.
It is. Of course it is.
Parents shatter that dream that could potentially happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
How can we break down that? How do we show them that how can we empower the child enough to break through that for the parent, or empower the parent enough to help that child with that opportunity?
It's the passion. The reason why I'm at today is passion, without a doubt. Again, I'm 37, and it got to a point where I would say roughly around the age of, I guess 12, 13. That's when like it got to a point where my mom's like, listen, video games ain't going nowhere. It's not going to do anything for you. So at that age, you start to think, but you know, I didn't take her serious because I'm like, the amount of things that have happened to me, like I was at antisocial, obviously, right? Like I was very
Weren't we
shy.
all?
So, but because of gaming, it really put me in this realm where I'm able to meet new people. I've met
Right?
people who have similar interests and stuff like that. So, the child has to really think about the process of what is good and what is bad, right? And obviously, I respect my mom's feelings, because she wants the best for me. But also too, you gotta understand, she has an old way of thinking, right? Like she's
Right.
very old school. She's from down south, so she dealt with the whole negative environment and trying to move to a location to hopefully have a better opportunity for myself, obviously. But the thing is that two things are different, and they're not well equipped to understand the involvement of just in society in itself. So it really depends on the individual in itself. Like if they're very passionate about what they do, they're always going to stick to their guns and keep doing it. And I've been gaming for God knows how long, for a long period of time. So I just kept doing it and doing it. I worked at arcades. I've done a lot of stuff, and I'm a prime example of just sticking to your guns. And that's the main reason why I feel like if you can be able to give children the opportunity, right, it's there for them to seize it. They have to, obviously they have to make the choice to do that. It's really depending on them. But you gotta understand also too the day and age of how the way kids think is completely different than what it was back then.
Yes.
Now it's more
Oh
like
my God,
most
yes.
most kids are most entitled to things, right? They feel like they're more entitled and without having to work hard for it. So there's a
Mm-hmm.
huge difference between working hard for it and feeling like I deserve to have this. And you have to kind of like, for me, I had to figure it out, especially with people who I join my group. When I definitely do an interview for anybody who joins my group, it's like an hour and 30 minutes. And the main reason why is because I want them to truly understand what type of business I'm running and how I do it. I'm not in it to make money off of you. I'm in it to give you opportunities so this way you can invent yourself. And if you decide to leave, great. We're not on a contract. I never did any contracts with any of my players. So no one can ever say I put a gun to their head for them to stay there or anything like that. That's not the case. They can do whatever they want as long as if they understand my vision and what I'm providing for them, they're more than welcome to stick around and take advantage of that opportunity because we're all working as a cohesive unit. I mean, again, I've dealt with it all. I dealt with people who, oh, I think I'm better than these players. I need to get paid. I need to have a contract. And this will happen. And I never really get upset about it. But it kind of like, I'm like, man, you're such a good person. You're good attitude. But then you let it get to your head. And that's just like, the problem with esports. It's like this. It's like Hollywood, right? People start, oh yeah, I'm this, I'm that, and it just caused a lot of problems. So like again, with this, I mean, we could go on for days talking about this, but esports in itself is like it's really creating smoke and mirrors for a lot of kids who, obviously the Fortnite I think is probably the worst thing to ever happen is because it creates dreams, but they don't realize how much hard work and sacrifice they have to get into that level, you know? And why we never have interviews with people who win. Like they'll just like, oh yeah, I just do this and I do that. But they're not really in for the passion for it. They just play because they play it and they win. They're good at what they do, but you never really get in depth with it, right? Like people don't really have like a story. That's the reason why like I'm big on stories, like people who are like coming from out of nothing, go from here and there. Like I've been grinding playing this game. Those are the things that really get me. So again, I'm sorry if I'm like going off with
No.
this, but it's just these
I
are the
mean,
things that I want like people to understand the importance of like really finding yourself and also giving your child an opportunity to let them find themselves and figure out where they stand. So this way that they could be able to stand on their own 2 feet. And if they make mistakes, they're not going to be feel defeated. They can just keep going on and grinding. And I think that's the most important thing because I had to learn on my own, because I didn't really have anybody next to me to say, hey, keep following your dreams. It
I
was
mean,
more like video games ain't doing nothing for you.
the one part I will say is that there are tons of kids that grind in the same light with Fortnite because having that whole Fortnite community, there are tons of kids that come into that one community. I got a kid, Big Shark, who comes out of Canada, and that kid is he's nice with it. Oh my gosh, the kid is a beast. There's a kid, the one at the tournament that we ran in February that won.
Yeah.
He and his brother, they were the two that actually won the tournament. Taki, I forget what Taki puts at the end of his stuff. Actually, Siren, you know Taki.
I do know Taki, yeah.
Yeah. And that kid grinds like nobody's business, and his brother tries to keep up with him. His brother's name is his brother goes by Porter. And
I would like to challenge something really quick, and this is only because I think I found it in my own kids. I too am pushing 40, so I feel you.
Wait till you get past 40.
Yeah. I would say that I've always felt that way as well. Like, I've never felt sold saying this, but these kids and their entitlement, they think they get everything, it's just going to get handed to them. But in reality, I think what I'm finding more and more isn't necessarily that they're terrible or that we are terrible parents even. I think there is something to be said for the instant gratification of society in general. We're talking microwave food. If you're hungry, you have a Hot Pocket in a minute and 15 seconds. Like everything is instant gratification, and that doesn't necessarily mean that our kids expect it for free or expect it to be easy, but they are confused when something takes time. Yeah. And I don't necessarily think that's because they're entitled little shits, although I did think that for most of my life. And I know that sounds really crotchety of me.
No, you're so right, Siren. It's that instant gratification, is that instant society. I mean,
but
even now, I was actually thinking to myself, no, that's what I'm saying. That's not their fault. Because even right now, I was thinking to myself that I've been busy, as Jacoby was saying, doing 1,001 things and everything. And I was thinking to myself, I haven't had lunch. And I was thinking to myself, I probably should order DoorDash or Grubhub. And it's that instant gratification. So because it's quick, it's something fast, and it's all of that and everything. Not that I can't fix something myself here or even go for the walk to the restaurant, but I was actually thinking to myself,
just order
I think I need to order something because it's fast.
So I do think that is something that we have to remember, because a lot of times, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I hear that all the time from boomers, and it pisses me off to no end, where it's just like, these entitled little shits. And I'm like, are they really entitled, or is the universe that we live in right now different than the one you were raised in? Where, and even us in our age group, it's still different. Where we still, the most we had was our own phone lines back in the day, and we thought that was the coolest thing, and pagers, but it was an instant. There wasn't that instant gratification like that. You still had to pass notes in class. You still had to, you know what I mean?
Well,
for these kids, everything is instant. Is that their fault?
It's not their fault. Like you said, it's the way that society has got us doing things. We're in that whole instant society, and I agree with you that a lot of times we're just thinking instantaneously. It doesn't matter whether you're 60, 80, 40, whatever the age range is. Just all of us are automatically thinking about that instant gratification and how to get that instant gratification. So I don't think that that's necessarily the kid's fault. I think that it's just the way that society has gone.
I just bring it up so that we kind of keep that in mind, because I'm with you, Virgo. I've felt that exact way where I'm just like, entitled little shit,
No, and even with that, I don't take it personal in that sense. It's just for me what I've dealt with, like when I try to help, it's the mindset that kind of turned me off, and I'm like, listen, like I'm trying to give you this knowledge and understanding,
and it's a gift, kid. Come on,
like I'm trying to help you to where you can get there, not faster, but you have a good understanding about the industry in itself, so this way you can use that knowledge and not get yourself caught up in stuff. Because some people are just like, oh, I know what I'm doing, and I see them fall flat.
You don't know what you don't know.
Here's another added bonus. The part I think that really gets me more so than any is a participation trophy.
I honestly am not sure how I feel about participation trophies. I'm from Oklahoma, so we didn't get any of that shit down here. Us country kids never got that shit. But
no.
There is something to be said, I think, for what's the word? Okay, let me put it to you this way. Psychologically, there is something to be said for that instant gratification culture that we're in, and keeping people involved long enough to actually become proficient is getting harder and harder, because everything is so instantaneous, because you can order, because when you play a game, if you're not good, you can buy gems and then you could just fake your way up until you're good enough, until you're there's a lot of that kind of roundabout monetary way to kind of BS your way, which we didn't have when we were younger, or you don't really have in real life. So
I think.
Wait a minute, Siren. I got one quick question for you. Siren, you mean that I can BS my way into beating Jatobi? Because I didn't think that was possible. Because like I said, I'm not a video game person. I'm very bad at video games. So you mean that I can actually BS my way into beating Jatobi?
You just need that money.
But what I mean about the participation trophy is that what's causing the entitlement more so than instant gratification. Because
but that's what I'm getting at is a fine line, right? It's a fine line to differentiate between keeping somebody interested in something long enough nowadays that they become proficient, which is where that kind of participation trophy comes in, where I've always been against it. I've never been a fan of it. But as I'm seeing more and more of these kids that just give up, and again, I'm for the longest time thought it was their entitlement, but is it? Maybe it's a little bit of both. Either way, we have to find a way to break through that. And maybe participation trophies are the way, maybe not. But I do think that it served a purpose in at least attempting to figure out, is that a motivator to keep kids into something long enough that they become proficient so they don't quit soccer because they lost. You know what I mean?
So remember, now let's wrap back around, because this is why I drop in that participation trophy, because just recently we were talking, just 20 minutes ago, we were talking about ways to give opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
The things that we were talking about were a little bit of representation, given that opportunity, and also what? Empowerment. Mm-hmm. So if that empowerment, how do we get that empowerment or empower someone without a participation trophy? What can motivate someone to do something and be proficient at something rather than me having to give them?
That's a really big question, because people are motivated by a lot of different things.
Yeah. So how come the participation trophy, I feel, is a lazy way of instant gratification?
It might be. It may be for some people, but it could be for other, like my kid who's very introverted, who doesn't go out of his way to be heard, always wants to be a part of the group, is a great support person, but he's never going to be spoken up. For him, participation trophies mean the world, because he's not up front. He doesn't get his number one anything, but he works his butt off to support the people who are. And he loves that. For him, that's good enough. He doesn't want to be in the spotlight. And I'm okay with that, because that's his personality. But for one kid, for your personality type, the participation trophy means something different than the little boy who's in the back, who doesn't get a voice a lot of times, is okay with that, but feels like he's been seen. And that keeps him going. So I think that's one of those things where you're talking empowerment as a single encompassing thing. I'm saying it's a scope. There's a level. Some kids, yes, that will be the case. It'll be something that is making it worse. But for some kids like mine, it's something that keeps them going and does give them empowerment and does make them feel seen and heard and makes them want to continue to try. So that's why it's hard.
How do we get out of the blanket? Because
that's individual. That right now you're talking about trying to change something systemically on an individual level, and that those two aren't ever going to go together. That's why you have judges instead of just laws. If making a systemic rule worked, we would never have judges or police or anything like that. That human interaction is because it's on an individual basis. You need the police officers to say, this isn't that big of a deal. This is a big deal. Then you need the judges to say, let me take that as a macro version and let me bump that against some of the other cases and whatnot. That's what we need. We need more teachers. We need more instructors. We need more people that are willing to interact one-on-one with these kids to find that individual motivator for each one.
And that's exactly
trying to make a blanket statement would not work.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. How do we get out of the blanket? How do we not use the blanket? And what you were talking about is what I'm trying to get to. Is that motivation.
Sorry.
Yeah.
My bad.
No, I don't want a blanket. Hey, we put everybody and everybody do this. No, I want. How can we get to a point of motivating said kid who is quiet and doesn't need that? How do we motivate him as well as motivate the kid who is very outgoing?
Well, interestingly enough, this is a conundrum that has been thrown around for the last 15 years in regards to libraries.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. There's been a lot of research done, and how do we deal with keeping libraries alive? Are they going to be alive? Are they going to be centralized? Are they going to be, kind of broken up and made smaller libraries everywhere? How do we get people engaged? You've got different types of readers, people that want to stay in the library and hang out, people that want to take it home, people that want to own the books, people that want hard. I mean, this is actually, interestingly enough, almost verbatim that exact conversation that's been going on for the last 10, 15 years in regards to libraries. How do we get people motivated on an individual level to kind of engage with the structures and institutions that have been around for a while but are now being reutilized? How do we deal with that? So
that's just that itself right there. I think that is that conundrum in different areas of society, especially gaming.
Yeah, it's interesting though that it's not necessarily new.
Yeah, you're in the right place. I just got to go to the other room because we're switching from one to the other.
Gotcha. Technical difficulties.
Yeah, Mark put up his spider. Y'all see how much money Mark got? He got a little spider on his picture. That's his car that he rides with. I think he's on the phone with somebody. I don't know if he was talking to us. I don't know.
I don't know, but I've seen one of those in real life one time. Almost got to touch it.
I wish that was my car. It's actually an emblem of the car that my brother drives. I'm actually a non-driver still. I don't actually do any driving of any sort at all. So I'm one of those non-drivers in the world, mass transit and all of that. But definitely my brother has one of those Polaris Spiders. So he's actually part of a club of those drivers. They actually went around and saluted his lady friend's daughter when she graduated last year. So I remember they were driving around giving them a salute as a way to get through the COVID and all of that, because a lot of the graduations and a lot of other things weren't done in the way that we traditionally had them done. So that was their way of honoring not just his lady friend's daughter, but a number of other friends that are Polaris members that are also doing great things in that community as well. So it was great seeing them do that really positive thing.
That is really cool.
But Jatovi, I'm gonna let you get these fine folks out of here and everything, because I've actually got to great bounce, get that food going. I'm glad that I finally met Miss Siren and met Mr. Virgo. So I know I'll see Siren again later on. I'm hoping Virgo will be back as well. And of course, I always come back with all kinds of crazy and sometimes off the wall questions and everything. But that's just the nature of me and everything. But it's great meeting both of y'all. Look forward to seeing y'all back later. But I'm gonna let Jacoby get y'all off the air and everything. So I'm ready to bounce.
Well, before you go, Mark, you got to jump in on this too, because last week I as gamers, truthfully, when we're sitting there playing a game, like I said, we're not really focused heavily on talking about the technical pieces of the game and everything. And that's the point of the show, is we're gamers. We talk about life. We talk about other things than just, hey, I'm playing Rocket League. Let me look at the octane, do a backflip and hit the ball and do a snipe shot from the out. Oh, did you know the technicalities of Fortnite, the way they did it in Epic? No, let's talk about stuff. And last week I brought up the fact that Star Wars doesn't really have that many security cameras. And it always confused me every time I look at Star Wars and there are no security cameras and they can never figure out where people are. So this week, here's a question for everybody. Here's a good question. How in the world did Will Smith knock out an alien by punching it in the exoskeleton? How?
I mean, I've seen some football players take it to the dome and get knocked out before.
But I mean, it's an alien that was just going Mach 5 and he punched him in the head barely with a glove. So that after coming out of a crash too, how did he knock that alien out?
I go with it's Will Smith.
Yeah, well, those aliens. I think it's just Will Smith. Anything. I'm sure that their body chemistry and ours are not the same. So that's how they managed to pull that off. And on that note, I'm leaving.
Hi, Mark. Nice to meet you.
All right, Mark.
Nice to meet you,
Virgo, Siren, thank you for jumping in on the Gamers Den and having fun today. I got to talk to you guys later anyway. Virgo, as you know, we got to talk about some stuff, get some stuff going. Same thing with you, Siren. We still got our knuckles up, either Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat game to happen.
I'm happy with both.
Because I'm not challenging you in a shooter. No, I ain't crazy.
I'm so long as it ain't, if it's mouse and keyboard, it's over. Done.
Oh Lord. But all right. So thank you guys for coming. Siren, please let everybody know real quick how they can follow you, how they can find you. Let's make sure you get some press out there.
Again, my name is Siren from Cedo Gaming. Cedo is the mother of monsters. We are a competitive esports tournament coordination company, and I got it right this week. We are on Twitch on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. Every Friday and Saturday, we hold a Fortnite or Call of Duty tournament. We are currently not actually. We're running an affiliate leagues tournament for Fortnite this week. Come and join us. It's $5 entry. We make sure that we always have a 10 times prize pool, meaning if you put $5 in, if you get first, you're going to get $50 a player. So duos is $100 for the winner. Trios is $150. We always pay that out. And come for the analytics. Either come play or come hang out with me. I have a background in special operations for about 16 years in the military overseas. And for the most part, I take that real life tactics and analytics, and then I kind of translate that onto our shooter games and work with you guys on better ways to play the game. And I hope to see you there, if not this weekend, then next.
Awesome. Now, Virgo, same thing. Let everybody know how they can follow you, everything about you. Come on.
Yeah, I am Virgo, CEO of Play All Gaming. We pretty much obviously do fighting games at this point, but we're looking to get into other genres. I mean, as of COVID right now, things have been very difficult. So we just pretty much keeping things simple. I just pretty much care about their health being first. So I'll make sure everyone just take care of themselves during the pandemic. But you can follow us at Play All Gaming at pretty much all the social media outlets. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Just keep up with us. We'll hopefully be coming out with some great news soon, hopefully. And if you guys are looking for anybody, that obviously I do independent contracting. So if you need help with the TOing or helping with your tournament or looking for someone to kind of help you build a community within your area, you always can find me at Jahan Sheriff at LinkedIn. That's where you can also find me as well. So that's it.
Cool. So everybody, make sure you check those two out. Also, Bull City Gaming, or Bull City GG, and all the other goodness. And we'll see you next week at 1:00 here on the Gamers Den.